If you
Right.
make me co-host, I can let people
All
in, can
right.
I?
Yeah, no worries. All right, welcome everybody. This is the information session for our Birds and Benches project in the North Natomas Regional Park. My name is Donald Gensler. I am the Art and Public Places Manager. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Amy Tokuhama Chapman. I'm the arts program assistant for Donald here. Happy to be here with you guys.
Great, and welcome everybody. This is a call to artists that went out for a two-phase project in North Natomas Regional Park. And what we hope to cover today is an information session giving you some background on the project. And of course, all the information can be found on Submittable, and we'll go through that. But sacccityarts.submittable.com/submit. So maybe Amy will be able to put that in the chat. Most of you probably already have that, but just encourage you to make sure to read through that RFQ a couple times. And I think that this information session will be a good opportunity. There'll be opportunities for questions all the way through after each section. And so please feel free. I love this to be an open dialogue. That's why it's not a webinar format. Uh, and and we look forward to answering your questions. We will end promptly at 6:30. However, I'll be able to stay on to continue to answer any questions that people have after 6:30. So feel free to stay on. We may record that as well, but the meeting will officially end at 6:30. So please feel free to leave at that time. And we do hope that this is helpful both to those who are able to join us tonight, but those who are maybe listening, watching later. This will be on the information packet folder that is also accessible through the request for qualifications background document on Submittable. So you can just click the link. That'll take you to the folder. You should be able to download any and all documents that are there. And we'll have this presentation there as well as the actual PowerPoint that I'm going to be showing. There already is a rubric there and another information packet and the RFQ in PDF format. I do encourage you all to make sure to have that RFQ in PDF format just in case you want to access it at some point, because once the call ends on July 28th, you won't be able to access it from Submittable any longer. All right. Well, terrific. We are always thrilled to have these types of projects, particularly this one, because it's something that I've been wanting us to do for quite some time. It's an opportunity for artists who maybe also haven't done as much public art to be able to have a commission to design an artist design bench. And so we're also welcome artists with sculpture experience who have done that work. Certainly you are absolutely invited, and we want those folks to apply as well. But we are really also looking at artists who maybe don't have public art experience but understand design and sculpture and want to have an opportunity to make a piece of permanent art that would be owned by the city of Sacramento. Along with that, I think this is a really great opportunity to kind of work together as a group. The project itself will take about two and a half years in its entirety, and it'll be in two phases. Actually, potentially even in three if we secure some additional funding, but we're still working towards that. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I will share my screen. Let me see. And I'll take you guys through a bit of a presentation.
Donald, did we want to introduce our care holders? We have two of our care holders in the.
Great. Yeah, we're going to do that as a component of the presentation.
Excellent.
But yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. That'll be great. So are you all able to see that screen that says Birds and Benches?
Yeah.
Okay,
We see
great.
your whole desktop.
Yep, and that's what I want you to see. So let me just Let me just open this up to full screen mode. All right. So we're going to start. We already did the initial introductions of the two city staff, Amy and myself. And I'd like to do some introductions of any care holder partners who are able to join us this evening. Then I'll give you a quick background of the Birds and Benches project. That you can find all the information in the RFQ, but we have some images and some things to go through to share with you. Then we'll take opportunity for questions. So I'll ask if folks want to ask questions. That's totally would be totally fine and what we're looking for. Then we'll do an overview of the RFQ. So I'll actually go to the submittable site and we'll look at the RFQ itself quickly because you can look at it on your own. We'll walk you through that. We'll answer questions. Then we'll go through the scoring rubric. And that is actually the rubric that will be used to score you when you apply. So you should read through that and you should think about when you organize your images that you understand the selection criteria that you're going to be used to be scored on and then ultimately chosen for the project. There'll be opportunities for questions. And then we'll walk through quickly the submittable application. I'll actually just kind of start it just as if I was going to apply, and we'll walk through the different steps. We'll also ask for questions at that time, and then we'll kind of wrap up. And like I said, I could stay on a little bit past 6:30 if anybody has additional questions. So with no further ado, I'd love to start with any care holder partners that we have with us today, and there are 5 groups. So let's see who's with us today. I know Paul was with us. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself to get started from the Sacramento Audubon Society?
Sure. Thank you, Donald. Paul Miller, president of the Sacramento Audubon Society. We're all about birds, and we're multifaceted. Our primary goal is conservation, but our secondary goal is to introduce people to birds, and in that way, they are also introduced into conservation. So we're really excited about this project, and thanks for including us, Donald.
Absolutely, Paul. Really looking forward to it. And these 5 care holder groups are going to be a major part. I'll go into this a little bit more in depth, but of the phase 1, it's a kind of a rigorous engagement phase. And it's really engagement around the idea of conversations that artists can have with these 5 groups. And Sacramento Audubon Society is, of course, one of those groups. Who else, Amy, do we have with us today?
Well, Mayo's here from Shingle Springs.
Who's here?
Are you there? Mayo, are you there? I
Oh,
thought I
Mayo.
saw you.
Hi, Mayo. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Mio Marufo. I am the new
Mayo.
exhibits and curation, exhibits and curator for Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Mio. We haven't had a chance to meet yet, so it's a great opportunity to meet you too. And we've really valued our opportunities to work with Shingle Springs and to continue to work with the tribe and just learn about the knowledge and insights that you all have and about the indigenous culture from the Miwok and the Nisenan. So thank you for being here. We also are fortunate enough to have another tribe that is participating, and that is the Wilton Rancheria. I'm not sure that anybody from the Rancheria is able to join us today, but they've been really active participants. Anybody, Amy, in today?
I did not. No,
Okay.
no.
They've been
And I
really
know-
active participants. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I did not see anyone.
Okay, they've been active participants in a couple projects with us lately, and we're looking forward to working with them. And then a couple other groups, Natomas Jibe, which I know is not able to join us today, but they are focused on transportation and mobility and really looking at the pathways through the North Natomas Regional Park as a really important component to experiencing this avian life and just experiencing the park and outdoor environment. And then lastly, but not least, of course, the Natomas Basin Conservancy that focuses on conservation and around stewardship of a number of properties, not this property in particular, but they can give insights into kind of environmental preservation and conservation. So we look forward to all of those as components of our project. This is a loose idea of the timeline. We are on schedule right now, and this timeline is also found in the RFQ. So I'm not going to go through step by step, but I wanted to kind of share with you a couple really important things. We expect for the engagement portion of phase 1 to begin in November. And I'll clarify this a little bit more, but the phase 2 artists would then be included. They would show up for one meeting or workshop or more if they wish to. But we do expect for all the phase 2 artists to attend at least one meeting or workshop from each 5 careholder groups. So I think it'll be really a great opportunity to get in there and just start kind of thinking, start dreaming. You can see some really interesting examples of benches. We've kind of peppered these throughout. This one from the Ukraine, but then also we have some wonderful photos of birds from the Natomas Basin that the Conservancy shares with us. There will be an exhibition of the phase 1 artists' work, somewhat similar to how we did with our Del Rio Trail project. So that'll be great. And then shortly thereafter, the phase 2 artists will present their conceptual designs, but they'll have a full 8 months to work and learn, if not more, to work and learn through the whole engagement process. Leaving about a year for fabrication and then installation of the benches planned around February to March of 2027. So that gives you a little sense of the timeline. For our careholder partners, we want you all to understand the partners are there to kind of share their mission and their knowledge. So we want you all and the general public, you all, I'm assuming most of you are going to be applicants. We want you all as applicants to just learn from these different organizations and also to allow them to kind of share their mission and knowledge with the general public. So we see this as a great opportunity for them to do that. The phase 1 artists, so we'll go into this a little bit more, will be kind of artist ambassadors, and each phase 1 artist, there's 5 of them, will be paired with a careholder partner. But really, this is critical: environmental, cultural, and mobility, and then bonds with artists and community. That's what we're looking to kind of build here. Gives you a little sense of the aerial view of the 212-acre park, and it's quite expansive. Of course, there's a lot of activities and sports type of facilities here. But then, as you can see, there's just a ton of just open land space for vibrant, diverse ecosystem and habitat for many animals and plants. We're interested in celebrating that diversity of animals and plants within the habitat. One little anecdote that I've been sharing with folks lately is that before I was here in Sacramento, I lived in Philadelphia, and at the time while I was there, Christo and Jean-Claude did a installation called The Gates in Central Park in New York City. So I took the train. New Jersey Transit, wasn't making enough money to afford Amtrak, and so spent the day down there. And what I really realized through that experience of seeing the gates was that as much as it was about seeing the art, I really saw Central Park in a new way. Had been there many times, but it drew me to the environment in a new way. So I encourage you to think about this project in that way, that the art, the benches will be important, but it's an opportunity for us to share and learn about this environment, this habitat, and this place of indigenous cultures and groups that were here before the city of Sacramento. This is a little sketch of what this looks like, project elements, phase 1 and phase 2. So there'll be 10 phase 1 careholder meetings. There'll be 5 phase 1 artist careholder workshops. Actually, Amy, I keep forgetting to change that. There's
Yeah.
actually 15
Thank you.
careholder workshop meetings in total, because 5 groups, 3 meetings each group. And these
Right.
meetings will be virtual and or in person. So we would encourage holders and the artists to work that out. Maybe the first 2 meetings are virtual, and then the 3rd meeting you meet on site and you can discuss locations or different things. Really, the idea here is just that you're meeting each other, building friendships with the organization and the ambassador, and the public just gets to show up and listen, as well as some of the phase 2 artists. So you can show up, you can listen, you can participate in the dialogue. It's as simple as that. It's like just come join a conversation that's happening and learn from it. So trying to find new and innovative ways to engage with one another in this process. I love community meetings, but I think we can find other ways to do things, and that's why those workshops will be really great too. It's kind of active engagement through the act of making. And then lastly, we'll do 8 phase 2 bench installations, just a little inside information that we may actually be able to add on a couple more benches. So we'll see. So please do apply. It is possible there may be more than 8 artists chosen, but that still needs to be determined. But we certainly will do 8, and everything will be free and open to the public. Yeah, fingers crossed. All right. So the artist ambassadors. These examples from Del Rio Trail, a couple of folks which are with us tonight, and thank you for being here. But was a really wonderful opportunity for those artists to share their craft and their creative visions with the public, allow the public to make things in the process, and that was the engagement. So we are looking to do a similar thing. It is open to artists of all disciplines. So I know you all are, somewhat in competition with each other in these types of things, but I do encourage you, if you have artists in other disciplines that are not visual arts, or if you yourself are not within the visual arts, that's great. We are looking for other disciplines. Certainly the visual arts, painting, sculpture, folk art, any of that stuff is welcome. But we are also looking for literary arts and theater and dance is all on the table. We're not going to be too prescriptive. We could select all visual artists, or the panel could select all visual artists, but we are opening that up. And honestly, the Del Rio Trail was just quite wonderful. We had all kinds of really interesting work come out of that. Some of the examples you can see here in the photos. And we'll get to questions in just a moment. There'll be the 10 careholder meetings. Again, I'm messing that up. 15 careholder meetings. We need to change that. Opportunity for the public to listen and meet each other and hopefully be inspired by that process. Here is an example of a participatory workshop. And then phase 2, 8 benches. These really are artist design benches. That's what we're interested in. The artist will receive $25,000, and I've set money aside to take care of the actual installation and permitting costs. So that's just going to be for the fabrication. It's not a ton of money, but it's enough to do a bench or to work with a fabricator to do a bench. And I think come up with some interesting opportunities. We will also, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of it tonight, but we have some really exciting professional development stuff in store. Definitely for both phase 1 and phase 2. So stay tuned. We do hope that if you are selected and you're part of this group, that you will be encouraged and that you will want to participate in those professional development workshops as a component of this project. All right, so I'm going to stop the share for a moment, and we're kind of at the point where I'm going to go over the RFQ, so you can kind of. It's very similar to what I just described, but I'm going to actually show it to you in the RFQ. So, but before I do that, are there any questions that you all have so far about the project? I love it. Means I was just as clear as could be. I love it. I know there is a lot going on, but we've tried to build this. It's a balancing act between trying to not be too. I say this all the time. I really don't want to be too prescriptive. I think artists are the ones that should come up with the ideas, but we want to kind of lay the groundwork, the foundation, so that we can have some interesting community engagement, and so that other people who are not directly involved, maybe as artists, can be engaged in the process. So that's part of what this is, but recognize this is always coming from a place. I'm really trying to give artists a lot of freedom here to explore and find creative approaches. It matters a lot to me that artists are able to be at the table in these types of conversations. We want you to be at the table very early on in the process. And so that's what we're doing here. So I'm going to click on that link and I'll share my screen again. So here's great. Can you see can you see my browser here, Amy? Yeah, okay, great. So again, that's the link, sacityarts.submittable.com/submit. You click on the link, you'll see a page like this. You go down, and there we are, birds and benches, okay? So I'm just gonna look real quick first at the guidelines, and we'll go down here. Of course, the first part is just this background information, describes phase 1 and phase 2. So if you just saw the information session and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to wait and hear about this in the information session, that's awesome. And now I just encourage you to take a little time, and just read through this. It'll be just reinforcing what you've heard tonight. So this is only open to professional artists. One thing I did want to clarify, and I have had a couple questions on this. You don't have to be from Sacramento. You don't have to live in Sacramento. You don't even have to live in California to apply for this. However, we don't have any additional funding for any travel or lodging or any kind of accommodations or anything. So if you have a way to kind of make that work for you and you could be up in Sacramento and participate, you would want, certainly artist ambassadors probably need to be in the region, but the artists doing the art benches, if you are willing to travel at least a couple times to make sure you get some meetings in and can help with installation, I think it can work for you to be from outside of Sacramento. And I do encourage that. I think it's great to have voices from all over. I even had somebody, an international artist, contact me. And I find that that's great. It's just that we just don't have any more funding. So if you were to receive a commission, you'd have $25,000, and you still would have to get the work here and all of that. So just keep that in mind. It's just a limitation on the funding we have. We do also, you are getting some additional points in the rubric, and we'll be talking about the rubric. You'll get some additional points for having either cultural physical or cultural or historic connections to Sacramento Valley area and to this general area. So you do get some additional points for that, but that doesn't mean that if you don't have those direct collections, you can't apply. We're happy to do that. And some projects we have a little bit more funding available. This one, unfortunately, we just don't have additional funding for travel. These are the awards. We'll have 5 awards of $6,000 each for phase 1. And those artists will just, the only thing is similar to the Del Rio Trail was, make art about the trail. This is just make art about, the park and hopefully the avian life to some extent. But it's kind of open-ended. And then of course, as a phase 1 artist, you would be required to be in dialogue with your care holder group and learn from them and hopefully be influenced in the work that you make through that. But whatever that influence is, that's up to you as an artist. And then ultimately have something that you can share at the exhibition, whether it's a work of art, a small series of art, or maybe music or whatever your discipline is, you could share it at an event would be really important. That work is yours to keep. The city would just want a license to be able to share that work as part of our engagement. So that's a really nice aspect to that. If you like that kind of work, like working with groups, but then you want to be in the studio making your own work or developing an idea as a theater artist or dancer or something like that, and then share it publicly. I think that's a great option for you. You can apply for any of these positions, but you can only be selected for one. Also, the Phase 2 artists, I think, is a great opportunity in that we will have some professional development workshops. You will be able to create this artist bench. If you do make benches and sculptures regularly, then this will be kind of right up your alley. If you don't, we'll also have a couple local fabricators that we have tapped who are going to serve as mentors and who also can be hired to fabricate your work. And I will say this, and I said this a couple times in the call, if you're just designing it and working with the fabricator, the more work the fabricator is doing, the more money you're going to pay. So just keep that in mind. And there's no problem with that. There are many artists that, work with fabricators and have the fabricator almost, entirely create the work. But for this particular commission, it's entirely possible that almost your entire $25,000 could go to the fabricator. It just depends on how you balance, how much of the work you're doing and how much the fabricator is doing, and then what you're taking on. We're going to have conversations about that. But I do think that it also is a great opportunity, especially if you don't have a work of public art. This would be ultimately a piece that is yours in the public collection. Actually would be owned by the city of Sacramento, but it would then be in the permanent collection of the city of Sacramento. So we hope that that is of some benefit. Amy, did I
Donald,
see you wanted to say something?
Yeah, William put a question in the chat about who are the fabricators that you're working with? And I don't
Well,
know that
we're
we have
still-
them
we're-
nailed down yet, so.
Yeah, we haven't had it nailed down. And I'm probably not going to announce them formally right now, but there's a couple different sculptors that I've been working with that are willing to take on some fabrication work. So I want to, rather than announce them at the information session, I'm going to do a more formal announcement of the mentors. But it'll be a good opportunity. Those mentors that I've spoken with have already, are not going to be obviously applying.
And I did, when you were mentioning the workshops and the inspiration from the birds and the park and the community, I did want to mention that we had discussed the fact that the birds are an excellent metaphor for the diversity of the avian life, is a good metaphor for the diversity of the community members in D1, because we do have being from Natomas here, I say we. It is the #1 most diverse school district in the nation, the Natomas Unified School District. So it's part of the community pride and part of what goes on in the park. If you ever are out there on a Saturday, the community does come out. So to celebrate that. Sorry, just wanted to add.
No, that's terrific. Thank you for that, Amy. And Amy's exactly right. So I mean, I'm not shy about saying that this the diversity of bird life and avian life is absolutely symbolic for us, metaphor, for the diversity of cultures and people within Natomas. And it should be said, I didn't say this at the onset. This whole project is in partnership with Councilmember Lisa Kaplan and her office in Council District 1. So they're actually the ones that came to us and said, we'd really love to do something in North Natomas Park. Can we find the funding? We happen to have some art in public places funding available. And then they're the ones that really started to talk to us about people's interest in birds and interest in potentially more benches. So I'm just thrilled to be able to work so much hand in hand. We don't always work. We work, we notify our council office, but we don't always work that closely, and we've been really fortunate to have the council members spend a lot of time with us, and her staff, chief of staff, and others spend time with us through this process. So they're very much engaged. And also, they very much care also about exactly like what Amy was talking about, that diversity of Natomas and all the different cultures. And you only need to kind of drive around to see just the wealth of different folks that are here. And it is quite wonderful. And then the last thing I don't want to forget about, I don't focus on as much, but there is a third position. It's just going to be one position for an engagement manager. And you will notice if you are applying for that, you still are being asked to submit artwork, because while we will consider people who don't have a regular portfolio, or they're not practicing artists, the position is somewhat made for a practicing artist who is interested in doing some more kind of administrative work at an hourly rate. Okay, and I know it's not a super high hourly rate, but there's a lot of hours that may be spent just attending events and things like that, that would all be part of that process. So we're looking for somebody that's willing and interested to be part of the process, learn from the process, but also help and assist Amy and I in just keeping organized with the different engagement events. We also think it could be a really great learning opportunity for that particular person who will be basically going through this entire process with us from start to finish. So we look forward to selecting an engagement manager as well. We probably will do interviews once we select a couple finalists for that position. All right, moving right along. You can read about the background. I encourage you to click on each of these. While you may have a particular careholder group, if you're applying for phase one, that you'd like to work with, I also encourage you to, in your application, indicate, your interest in other groups potentially. I think honestly, you'd be great with any of these 5 groups, but you may have one in particular, a couple that you're particularly interested in, and you can express that in the application. So the artist ambassadors, this breaks down what I discussed today. The final report, by the way, guys, is pretty simple. It's about a 1-page document with some pictures attached. So we're trying to keep it pretty simple. We really want to make it about the art, but we do need folks to, to take their time and be engaged in the process. Participation, conceptual design, artist talk, and dedication for phase 2. These are all kind of the phase 2 requirements, what you'll be required to do as a phase 2 artist. It is a bit of a program, more than just a single commission opportunity. So I want to put that out there. Some projects that we do, the artist gets the commission and we're just mostly focused on that. There might be an artist talk. This has a little bit more programmatic feel to it because there'll be mentors, there'll be workshops, there'll be other things going on. So if you really don't like that, then this might not be the one for you to apply for. But I think for the most part, it will be worth everybody's time if you were to be selected. I think you would enjoy the process and learn through the process and teach all of us as well. That I do hope that we're all in dialogue with one another. Yes.
Before you get too much farther along, if you could scroll back to the careholder page with the links, Jay had a question about a list of the native birds in the area, and I would suggest if you went to the Sacramento Audubon Society page or the Natomas Basin Conservancy page, they would have probably a good list for you there. But that depth of information will be fleshed out in the careholder meetings that we'll be having. And then, Donald, there was another question about, Tia, I believe you were asking, can you apply to be a careholder group? But we've already selected the careholder groups in advance so that we could have their information here in the call for artists. So Donald, if I missed anything there.
That's exactly right. And yeah, so for this particular project, we do have these 5 groups that we're working with. If you are, if you have an organization that you work with that you would love to, be engaged in this type of thing, just email me. I'll make sure to put my contact information in the chat. It's also at the end of this RFQ. But don't hesitate to, introduce yourself and let me know. Let Amy and I know that, you'd be interested in engaging with us in some future projects. And it also doesn't mean that your group can't be involved in this. It's just, we just selected these 5 care holders that will be partnered with each with one artist, but it doesn't mean that, your group couldn't come to a series of these meetings, especially if there's some synchronicity with one of the other care holder groups that you think like, hey, this is great. We do this kind of stuff too. Maybe you're a local bird watching group and you want to attend all of the, Audubon Society meetings. I think that's terrific. Whatever the case may be, I think there's ways to connect here. And what we're hoping is through those connections, we're just building creative ideas. If we end up where we kind of like where we know now, it's not successful. It's successful if we build on this and we end up in new places that we weren't even considering. And that's why we are trying to leave a good amount of space open for those types of developments to happen. All right, let me keep going. I want to make sure I'm done by 6:30. This just gives you the phase 1 and phase 2. I really encourage you to read through that so you understand what the requirements are. Again, we're really focused on artists having a lot of openness and flexibility, but we do have some requirements. You do need to be a professional artist. Here's how you apply is on Submittable. We only select from Submittable. This is a basic rundown, but I will go through Submittable itself. There's a panel review. It's pretty rigorous. The panel will review this work for about a month, and then they'll review it all individually. And then the panel will, and there'll be members from the care holders on some of the care holders will be on the panel, and then we'll have other artists, both local and also from outside of the state, that will be participating as selection panelists in this project. And so it's a detailed rubric. I'll be sharing that in just a moment, but they do all that scoring individually first. And then they meet and they spend the entire day kind of debating and going through oftentimes a short list of artists, but depending on how many people apply, they spend the entire day and come up ultimately with their final scores. Information packet, here is that link for the information packet. So encourage you to just click on that and download everything that's there. This information session will be recorded and on there as a video link. We'll have it on YouTube as well at some point, but first and foremost, it'll be in the information packet. And these other items are there or will be there as well. We're at the information session now. We talked about the timeline, and there, of course, is my contact information. So I'm going to stop the share real quick and just give a quick pause. We still got about 20 minutes. Any questions thus far of the, of this whole process? Great. And I know folks have asked questions throughout, so that's terrific. So I'm going to go to the next session, which is actually taking a look at the rubric, and I encourage you to do it on your own as well. So this is going to be just a very quick overview of this selection criteria. But you can see we've broken it into 3 main categories. So you want to kind of pay attention to those, and then you can see, I'm not going to read each one of these, but like, for example, the overall contributions of the artist's body of work to the advancement of the field. Okay. Now some folks say, like, what the hell, what are you talking about? So basically this is, trying to be objective in terms of what that panelist's knowledge is of that kind of particular field or that discipline. And then scoring you based on that. They're going to look at, for example, your artist statement and your work samples. Some things that I think are important, on the technical skills section, the artist's ability to translate their point of view to their work. So for example, if your artist statement, which should be kind of your just general artist statement, you'll have a statement of interest, that's for this project. But your artist statement is like, this is the kind of work I do. This is why I do this work. I'm a dancer. I'm a choreographer. I do this work for this reason. Or I'm a visual artist, and this is the type of work I'm doing. It doesn't have to be benches, of course. But then your artist statement should talk about that to some extent, right? So and remember, you're going to be kind of scored on that. So the statement should reflect the work that you're sharing with the panel. I just encourage you all to take some time to think about that your statement is reflected in the work that's shared. You can read through the rest of this. Notice here the public art and engagement experience. It's not just, you don't have to have public art experience. But so here, the artist demonstrates experience designing artwork made or performed for a specific site or location, right? So that, you may have done a piece that is site specific that, wouldn't be considered public art. Maybe it was just up temporarily or in your studio or an installation. You do want to show that you worked with folks in the past. I think that's a benefit. If you haven't, it's okay. Maybe you score a little lower in this one area, but you might score higher in some of the other areas. So just keep all that in mind. Review these, have a sense. I mean, you have to be true to yourself. You are who you are as an artist. You have to be true to your own creative voice. But at the same time, take a look at these so you at least understand how you're going to be scored and reviewed. All right. I'll stop the share. Any questions on the rubric? And the rubric is an ongoing process for us. I mean, there's a lot of things that we keep the same, but we make slight adjustments and we develop the rubric based on comments that we get from panelists that have worked with us. We take the panel process really seriously. Not all people have to go through a panel process, but we feel like we have we're using public dollars. So we try to make a very, as fair, equitable, and transparent a process as we can. We also select panelists that are both diverse professionally. So I'm interested in arts folks, but sometimes there's engineers, there's architects, there's other people that are in the mix, or in this case, there'll be some kind of careholder partners that will be joining us as well from any number of different areas. We also want them to be culturally diverse. So diverse in terms of their racial makeup, their cultural backgrounds, all that. So they can bring that perspective. Because ultimately, the rubric helps us to be more objective, because they're scoring based on this objective review. But ultimately, we recognize everybody's going to bring some subjectivity, some of their own personal experience into their scoring. And so we just try to have a diverse group, because when they come together, and this does happen, they debate sometimes and they teach each other. And this happens with every selection panel. There's always a moment where somebody goes, oh, I didn't realize that that's what this artist is doing. That changes the way I'm looking. Maybe changes it for the better. Sometimes changes it for the worse. But I just wanted to give you an insight into that selection panel process. All right. And moving along here quickly, we're doing pretty good. I'm going to show you screen 2. I'm going to share that. And again, go to Submittable, click on the Submit button. And should come up. Great. So again, you're here. Wanted to share with you something. Sometimes somebody goes to submit and they go, watch what happens when you go submit if you're not, well, okay, here, I got to log in. Yes, I am human. All right. All right. Okay, so notice what happens. That's that same background information. And I do get some folks who haven't applied on Submittable. Many of you probably have applied on Submittable before. But I get some folks that are just like, I just don't understand. Each time I click the Submit button, I just keep getting the same thing. You know, it's a little just, I think, flaw in Submittable. You have to scroll all the way down, back through the guidelines again, and that takes you to the application. Okay, so you're here at the information session or you're listening to the information session. Remember, once you click on the submit button, You need to scroll down through that whole call again, and that's where you can enter in your name. You got your first name, your last name. This is the name that you kind of go by. Your legal name is the name that you pay taxes by. And in this case, if you will contract with us as a business, that's the name that you would put here. If you have an LLC or an INC or an S corp or something like that, that's what you would put here so that we know, how you're going to contract with us. All right. We're happy to help you through that process, but that information is important for us to have in one place. You'll put your address. That's important. Again, you'll have a chance to explain your location. We're not looking at it in terms of address. We're looking at it more in terms of your location statement. So put that in, make sure it's an address that, you have access to and you can receive mail and things like that, although we don't mail too often, but preferred phone, of course, we do want the phone to contact you. Email address. Put the email that you want to be contacted, although we'll say some of the early correspondence would just go through Submittable. So if you just signed up for Submittable and you thought, I don't want to put down my real address because they're probably going to send me a lot of spam, I would, encourage you to perhaps use an email or check it regularly. Check that email regularly because we will correspond with you. And occasionally somebody will say, but I never heard anything. And then usually the issue is the email that they signed up with is not the same email they put here. And we use the Submittable platform that just allows us to email all of you together. Once you're selected, then we use this recorded information. So a little bit of there for folks here and also folks listening. Again, you can check the boxes that you want to apply for, but keep in mind that ultimately, if you apply for all three, the panel will then decide which one they think what might be most appropriate if they decided to choose you. You will be scored no matter what. And then we'll start to do a little bit of choosing in terms of who can be chosen for which group. If you feel really strongly about a certain area, I will say you might want to just go for that area because if you select phase 2 and the engagement manager and you really didn't want to be the engagement manager and then you end up getting it, we'd rather you really want to do any of these, but you can apply for all three. Your primary discipline, this is what you're applying under, but if you have a secondary discipline, share that with us. If you have a care holder if you are applying for phase 1, please let us know. But then also, let us know if you have some other care holders that you're interested in potentially working with. That'll be important to know. And that'll help also with the panel. Or if you're just generally open to working with any of the care holders. Hey, this is, I'm particularly interested in working with Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians, but happy to be partnered with any of these care holder groups if something becomes available. I think that's totally, and so take some time and write that. There's 50 words, not much. We just want you to take some time. Don't phone this in, you guys. Don't just say like see resume or whatever. That there's no quicker way to piss off a panel than to kind of show them that you really could care less about the application process. I know it can be a little cumbersome sometimes, but we try to simplify it as much as possible. The sculpture artist, you really want to fill out, your qualifications, why you would really want to be applying for that position, and then engagement manager. Why are you applying for that particular position, if you are? Artist statement. This is your kind of general artist statement. It is not meant to be something specific to birds and benches, although you could adjust it a little bit. That's fine. But it's really meant to be your general artist statement. Also, we try to keep things as standardized as possible because we realize people apply to a lot of different things. Statement of interest. This is about the project. So take some time, think about what your interests are about the project. Don't lose sleep over it. Make sure to get it done, get your application submitted, but be thoughtful. And it is sometimes when we have a choice to make, this is oftentimes what it comes down to. The panel will be reading the artist statement and go, you know what, this artist really had an interesting thought in terms why they're interested in this project. And sometimes that's what kind of put you over the top. So just keep that in mind. Spend a little time on that one. Preliminary project concept. We totally realize that you're going to be working with your careholder partner, and we hope that that is like inspiring and gives you ideas. But we want you to just at least, if you want to do phase one, you do need to address A, B, and C, and just talk about what your concept might be. You know, what would you do? If you're a theater artist, would you be kind of creating a play that people might play out or something like that? Or I don't know. We had a artist that created a score of music for Del Rio Trail, and it was just quite wonderful because he kind of included a lot of his own cultural background in that process. So anyway, this can totally change, but you just want to share your preliminary concept. Your resume, we just want to know kind of what your professional history is. Here's the upload. You can put your website. This is basically, so I found over the years that selection panels, even though they're not supposed to look at the website, if they just needed to know something else about the artist, they were looking anyway. So I just make it up front. You get one chance. You could put a website, you could put Instagram, whatever you want to put. It's not the main focus, so definitely do include the work. But if somebody has a question, they could go to your website and just find out a little bit more potentially. And there's an upload for your resume. Your work samples, really important. Take some time, think about how you present your work samples, how they might relate to one another. Those are digital images. We do accept JPEGs and PNGs. I don't do PDFs here just because the JPEGs show up better. They create a whole series of thumbnails that the panel can see. I used to request PDFs, but you can't see it. So I just encourage you to put the JPEGs up there. Audio, if you do have audio, I mean, just only include it if it really is, something that is relevant to your work. You can submit a PDF. Again, this is also recognizing there's different disciplines. If you have a video, you can submit the YouTube link. Don't submit super long video content. The panel just doesn't have time to review things for too long. And work sample descriptions. This is really important. Whatever you do submit, please submit a page that describes each piece. That's also a little open-ended, so that gives you an opportunity to add a little extra information if you feel it would be helpful for the panel, people that you worked with in the process or whatever. So that's a little open-ended in that area, just pro tip. So you have an opportunity to add a little bit of extra info if you think it could be helpful. But, it shouldn't be super long, but work samples, you want to give some description. If you were not the lead artist on a particular project, speaking mostly to visual artists here, please do indicate what role you played. There's nothing worse than, knowing that somebody was an assistant on a particular project and they never once mentioned the lead artist on that project. It's not a good look. And we will call them out. We will call you out if people in the panel, know for a fact. And so it's never a good thing. So just be upfront about it. I wouldn't include too many that you're an assistant on, but if you want to share some projects that you are a collaborator or an assistant on to some extent, that's totally fine. And then references. These are just, 3 people, name, phone number, email. We really won't call them unless you're selected as a finalist. But we don't want to have to go back to you and ask you for that stuff. So just put that down. They're professional resumes, okay? So references, so people that have worked with you in a professional capacity. And then the rest is the demographic information. And we really do encourage you and ask you to put that information in. It really helps us understand kind of how we're doing and who's applying for these opportunities. Very last thing, you can save your draft or you can submit. Now, the save draft is a great function, but please, if you save your draft, put something on your calendar, put Post-it notes up, whatever you need to do to remind yourself to submit at least a couple days before the deadline. I can't tell you, I mean, I've had artists in tears, like a day later go, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's been saved in draft for like a week. and I just didn't hit the submit button. It's just not fair to everybody else to allow them to submit at that point. So please do that. Please don't wait to the very last minute to submit. There are little things that happen sometimes on the computer. So we just really want to make sure that everybody has a chance to participate, and don't try as much as you can not to wait to like 11:58 to try to submit. Just do it ahead of time if you can. So I'm going to stop the share. Any questions? That actually concludes our information session, unless there's any questions. Just want to, yeah, Heather.
I was wondering if we've worked with one of the caretaker organizations, should we use them as a reference?
There's no problem to put a care holder partner as a reference. I mean, a particular person, right? Not just the organization, but the person. But yeah, you could say their title, you could say, you know, executive director of, you know, so-and-so. So that's totally fine.
Okay.
And yeah, not a problem. Any other questions? I know we lost a couple people, but thank you all for staying on. We finished with like 2 minutes to spare. So you know, there's a lot of different facets to this project. The 2 phases, of course, the different kind of interactions that are going on. But again, I said it at the beginning, and I'm going to kind of close with this. We create this framework so that you as artists, assuming most of you are artists that would be interested in applying, that you are artists that, you know, you should have the freedom to develop your ideas, but we want to create a framework so that other people can learn from that as well, and be a part of that experience. And so that's why we do this. We're not trying to put you through kind of different hoops and stuff, and we really do try to make it as kind of streamlined as possible in terms of your application. You are more than welcome to contact Amy or I think it's my email that's in the chat. If you email me, well, not in the chat, but on the RFQ, if you email me, you might get Amy to respond, or, you know, Amy, could you put your contact information in the chat as well? We are more than happy to answer questions. And even, you know, if you have, you know, if you are having any problem with applying on the submittable site, you can send us an email or even set up a time to talk with us. Well, thank you all so much. I am going to actually conclude this information session, and then I will stay on a little bit longer unrecorded. But I appreciate you all taking the time to be here tonight. And if you were just listening in, I do hope that you apply, and we look forward to seeing your application in the Birds and Benches project. Thanks again, and have a great night, everybody. Take care.